Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Now, Donald Trump has led his first revenge-style rally since leaving office, addressing thousands of cheering supporters in Wellington, Ohio. At the weekend, the former president reprised his old grievances at what's being seen as a major campaign-style rally. He took to the stage, describing the Biden administration as a catastrophe and promising that in 2022, the Republicans would take back the House, take back the Senate, and take back America. Mr. Trump returned to his favorite themes of immigration and crime and repeated his bogus allegations that his defeat in the last election had been fraudulent. Well, for reaction from the other side of the U.S. political divide, I'm joined now on the line by a spokesman for the Democratic Party abroad, John Lindsay. Thank you very much indeed, John, for joining us. Your reaction to Donald Trump's rally, which got quite a lot of attention over the weekend.
Well, Charles, we see the Republican Party and still likely the leader of the Republican Party living in an alternate reality than the entire rest of the world. Joe Biden won the election fair and square. His administration is doing incredibly well, adding more than 500,000 jobs a month the last 4 months. We have shots in arms and checks and cashed in bank accounts and people going back to work. So Americans are feeling very good about the progress that the Biden-Harris administration has made, and the country is getting back on track. And I think that's a great example of what happens when you have a leader who has demonstrated competent ethical leadership in the White House.
Yeah, but I mean, Donald Trump, an ex-president, do you think the media should be ignoring him, or does the fact that, up to a third of the American public still feel that he should be president dictates that we pay attention? I mean, bearing in mind, of course, that he won one election and came quite close to winning a second one.
Look, there's a certain element of Donald Trump appearing on TV that is really just about his defense, probably in court, against some of these investigations into his personal and familial tax issues. But the other thing I'd say is we need to scrutinize the lies that he continues to espouse to the American people. The election was not fraudulent. The election was won fair and square. And by the way, 50 some odd secretaries of state, including quite a number of Republicans, say so. So I think in that element, it's important that we continue to dispel the myths that Donald Trump and his friends continue to espouse. But otherwise, I think most Americans are just interested in what comes next, getting their kids back to school in person in the fall, the ability to go to restaurants with their friends and family, with everyone safely vaccinated, and the reopening of the economy. I think those are the stories that most Americans really want to hear.
But, I mean, let's not forget that, in excess of 70 million people voted for him, almost half the voting public. Obviously, this rally billed as a Save America rally, so those people can clearly relate to it. But, I mean, from a Democratic point of view, and from the point of view of an analyst such as yourself, was it really a Save Trump rally? Because, I mean, there he is, a man apparently in search of a cause, clearly bored. I mean, he's got these adoring people lapping up every word. I mean, it must feel like taking an A-class drug, as one analyst said, standing there after the months of silence that have gone by. So hearing those cheers must be a big trigger for him.
Well, look, I mean, we know that Donald Trump has an insatiable ego. I saw one report from Politico, I believe, who noted that he spoke on stage for 97 minutes, which meant that you could have watched the entire film The Lion King and he still would have been speaking. The reality is that this is just about Donald Trump. He's not particularly interested in taking down Anthony Gonzalez, the Republican who bravely voted for impeachment. It's really much more about using these revenge tours that he's going to do around the country, going after these Republican candidates who voted against him, to really ingratiate himself and put himself back in the limelight. So in the end, it's really just about his ego. He's not presenting any policy or real political alternatives. And that's why I think for most Americans, they're going to really stop paying attention because they're much less interested in his sort of fire and fury comments and are much more interested in getting back to work, getting back into schools, spending time with friends, and watching America reopen again.
But I mean, let's not forget that there is a huge chunk of America that he represents that also feels unloved. And perhaps they like to be listened to because they feel ignored. I mean, should the Democratic Party be taking a page out of Mr. Trump's playbook in terms of simpler storytelling that makes more sense to people rather than the politics that is so abstract and dry and susceptible to sort of the colourful pantomime of villains and heroes that seduces them?
Well, Charles, I'd say first that, the stories of small business owners who are now able to reopen their restaurants thanks to the $28 billion restaurant revitalization fund are not abstract, or the stories that of people able to visit their families in nursing homes because everyone is now fully vaccinated. Those aren't abstract. These are personal, very effective tools for engagement, and are really the narratives that the White House is pushing. The White House is now President Trump had 4 years, including half of that time with a Republican Congress, wasn't able to get an infrastructure bill done, period. And Biden's been in the office less than 300 days and already has a bipartisan infrastructure package that's going to make it easier for Americans to get around on their commutes and kids to go to school. So I think there are really tangible and very personal stories that are coming out of this early administration. And I'd also note that every piece of legislation the White House has proposed has greater than 60% of the American public in support of it. So it's really important to note that while us in sort of the media sphere can be really fixated on sort of the up and down of who's in and out in politics of the day, the American people are overwhelmingly in support of the initiatives that the Biden and Harris administration is pushing. And I think we should really listen to those stories and hear why these everyday Americans are in favor of the actions this White House is projecting.
Well, I mean, let's not forget that Donald Trump at this rally also raised issues that are becoming, big issues in America today. I mean, the issue of immigration is once again on the front burner, and the issue of crime. I mean, that's something that a lot of people are wavering on as far as their support for Joe Biden goes, and the way that, for example, Kamala Harris has handled some of that.
Well, so the first thing I'd say is that the largest year for Customs and Border Protection enforcement on record is fiscal year 2019. So smack dab in the middle of the Trump administration. So the narrative that a Democrat being in the White House is somehow more or less impactful for enforcement actions at the border is completely inaccurate. And I understand that for most Republicans, numbers aren't really that important, or facts aren't really that important these days, but it really does matter that we're working on a basis in reality. And then the second thing I'd say is that this administration has been very clear on its positions involving immigration. Vice President Harris was in Central America and made it very clear that if you do not have a legitimate asylum claim, you should not come to the border because you will not be able to enter the United States. That's pretty explicit. That's pretty straightforward. She was in El Paso, which is the largest single border crossing in the United States just this week, and talked about those exact same issues. So I think this White House has been pretty aggressive on making sure that those who have legitimate reasons to come to the United States for immigrate either via the formal immigration service or via an asylum claim, which is a perfectly valid and legal process, can do so, and otherwise are not sort of throwing the doors open the way that Donald Trump and other Republicans have attempted to paint this. It's just factually inaccurate.
Right. Okay, John, I want to thank you very much indeed. John Lindsay is a spokesman for the US Democratic Party. That's it for this edition of the Arise interview. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, Dubai, and London, of course. Bye-bye, and thank you for watching.